is Joy News Prime.
Hello and welcome to the special edition of Joy News Prime. We're having to come to you earlier than usual so we can accommodate the Institute of Economic Affairs evening encounter with the presidential candidate of the political parties with representation in Parliament. But also in tonight's bulletin, work at recently revamped Ayensu starch factory in the Central Region grinds to a halt as the Electricity Company of Ghana adds the facility to its list of victims in its ongoing mass disconnection exercise to retrieve outstanding bills. But government has raised some concerns with the exercise. Contractors at the Circle interchange currently under construction deny claims the structure is already sinking even before it is completed. And Speaker of Parliament refers request for change of date of the country's election to the Council of State. Now, these are just headlines of three of the stories we have coming up tonight. Now, the Chief of Defence Staff says he's unhappy with what he calls the high political temperature in the country currently. Air Vice Marshal Michael Samson Oje, who has been addressing journalists in Accra, is optimistic the 2016 general elections will be conducted peacefully, but says the armed forces will apply the appropriate methods should the polls get chaotic. Beatrice Edu has more.
It was unusual and the most high-profile visit the GJA had ever had. That's according to its president, Afel Moni.
His visit is a follow-up to an event which was also organized in a historic splash at the Burma camp. And the capsule of his speech at that event was that the armed forces are prepared to do whatever it takes to preserve the peace of this nation.
CDS Samson Michael Oje said he was unhappy about the current political atmosphere in Ghana.
The president has virtually covered what I need to tell you. And since you are professionals, you've understood that even much more better than me. And he has said it in the right words to you. And that is your role during, before, during, and after the elections. And the end state is peace, but he has spelled it out better. Ours is to support the police and other security agencies to maintain peace and order.
He charged the media to do its work well in this election year.
I believe sincerely that if the media plays its best, if it plays its role effectively, efficiently, devoid of any political leanings, there will be peace in this country.
Now, 25 pedestrians on the average get knocked down on Ghana's roads every week. That's according to the National Road Safety Commission. To significantly reduce the number, the Commission, in collaboration with the Police, Motor Traffic and Transport Department, is embarking on a 3-day pedestrian road safety education initiative in the Central and Western regions. The Commission's Director, Engineer May Obriyabwa, is unhappy about the negligence of drivers and pedestrians. She says it's contributing to the high number of fatalities.
If we say 25 knockdowns a week, I think it's alarming. If you look at the statistics for the first quarter of this year, even if we ask at the end of May, 31st May, we had registered over 800 people dying on our roads, and it's unprecedented. We've not had it like that before, and I don't think it's something that we should be happy about. And so we know that this year we've had this kind of crashes where a number of people have died in just one crash. And what comes to mind is the Kintampo crash where over 60 people died. So it has all contributed to it. So what we need to do is to ensure that we do a lot of education from now till December, when we will have a lot of people crisscrossing along our roads because of elections. And it has, with history, we know that during election periods, a lot of people are involved in crashes. They die, they are injured. And we, since 2008 or so, we have tried to put in place certain things that will help during election periods. And so this is one of the new innovations that have come to pass, that we want to use the KTK type of thing, that is moving from one point to the other, to see if we that kind of education, it will help also in the reduction. This is to say that as we move from central, we expect that those residents in the central region, that is the road safety people, the advocates, and then the police and all other stakeholders, to continue with what we have initiated or started, so that as we move along, we maybe by the end of the year, then we would have covered the whole 10 regions, or maybe about 8 of them, so that we can help reduce the deaths and injuries on.
The Director General of the MTT, the ACP Patrick Sapong, says that police administration will go after drivers who fail to observe road traffic regulations.
But they don't know, we try to educate them. We have started this education in Accra about a month ago. It has worked on well. We've come here today, and Takrady is also doing it. What we want to do eventually is that after we have sensitized them on the do's and the don'ts, a time will come when we do enforcement. In that case, the law says that if you cross the road anyhow or any way, that is reckless, you commit an offense. But because people don't know, we don't want to do that enforcement today. So we are trying to educate them. But a time will come when we do the proper enforcement, that if you cross the road where there's no zebra crossing, you cause your arrest and we will prosecute you. 50 Ghana, it is not too much, but 50 Ghana to some people is also too much. But I'm not always concerned about the penalty. I'm concerned about you committing offense and being arrested. Even if you are questioned and discharged without making you pay a fine, the fact that you have breached a law and the police have arrested you is a stigma on you.
Brazilian contractors working on the Circle interchange here in Accra have denied claims that the flyover is sinking and poses a risk to users. It follows the circulation on social media of various photos of the pillars supporting the structure, where the publications suggest are being propped up. Upon completion, it is expected to carry about 84,000 vehicles daily and link the major road network that connects the suburban areas of Accra to the central business district. Though engineers in charge of the project consider the structure is sited in a flood-prone area, they say the nature of the soil there has already been taken into consideration in their design. Joining us is Patricia Gasu, who has been speaking with a site engineer who says there is no cause for alarm.
Some online portals and social media platforms have been rife with information alleging that the Kwame Nkrumah interchange, which is still under construction, may collapse. According to the rumors, the attachment around the piers looks suspicious and would give away to the weight of the flyover. But when Joy News visited the site to verify the rumors, the site engineer explained that the chambers around the piers are to serve as collectors of excess water from the bridge anytime it rains. Philip Ansah assures the design poses no threat whatsoever to the piers.
This place is a flood-prone area, and so much has gone into the foundation. They did what we call piling. That one goes down several feet or meters down, then we cap it, and then we have this column or pier carrying it at certain intervals, 30 to 41 meters intervals. So there's no way it's going to collapse. And you have to know that this has also gone through all the engineering tests, the deflection tests. I don't want to sound very technical, but all these things have been done, and then it's been proved that it will stand. And typically we design bridges for 50 years and above. So it's surprising that even before the job is finished, someone is saying that they are developed, there are no cracks. But I think I think what the person maybe observed, because he was saying they were digging around the columns of the piers. You see, we need to drain the water from the bridge, the deck, and what we do is to connect gullies from the top through a down pipe along the piers or the columns, and then we'll created a chamber around the piers down, and that will connect the water that you take it up through the pipe into the drainage system. Probably that's what the person saw, and he thinks that we are reinforcing. This thing is down, deep 30 meters down. How are you going to just dig around? To what extent? So if there's anything she saw that the workers, and they are still working on that, because it's part of, and it is not an afterthought, it's part of the design. So anytime it rains on the bridge, the flyover, we have to drain the water, you see. But you ask, how does we finally get into the drainage system? So you have to take it from there through that pipe down, and then we have that chamber, which is based concrete or block work, that the water will drip into it. Then you connect it from there into the drains. So it will be done along all the piers or the columns.
The interchange, when completed, is expected to carry 84,000 vehicles a day and link the major road network that connects the suburban areas of Accra to the central business district. Work on the Kwame Nkrumah interchange involves detailed engineering and construction of the old circle into a 3-tier interchange and other ancillary works including drainage, terminals, pedestrian walkways and landscaping.
If you're just joining us, we're bringing you Joy News Prime an hour earlier because of tonight's IEA evening encounter. We'll be joining them as and when they're ready with the speeches. We're taking a break at this point, though. We'll be back in a bit. Stay tuned. All right, if you're just joining us, you're watching Joy News Prime, which is an hour earlier because of tonight's IEA evening encounter. And the presidential candidate of the Convention People's Party, he will be taking his turn tonight at the event organized by the Institute of Economic Affairs. Ivor Greenstreet will use the opportunity to outline his vision for the country should he be voted for as president of Ghana at the polls. The first of the 2016 evening encounter with presidential candidates commenced with the presidential candidate of the People's National Convention, Dr. Edward Mahama, who articulated his vision to Ghanaians. Mr. Greenstreet has hinted he will use the night to highlight how his party will handle the unemployment situation in the country better than the Mahama-led government. Let's go over live now to the Lisa Hotel in Accra for the second in the series of the IEA evening encounters as the CPP flag bearer, lawyer Ivor Greenstreet, takes his turn.
Trade.
Right, so you're watching Joy News Prime, and Joy News Prime this evening started an hour earlier. We started at 6 p.m. and we've done a number of stories and also listening to the flag bearer of the Convention People's Party, Ivor Greenstreet, articulate his party's vision should they be elected into office. Now, a number of the stories we have been looking at so far, Chief of Defense Staff says he's unhappy with what he calls a high political temperature in the country. Vice Marshal Samson Ojay, who has been addressing journalists in Accra, is optimistic the 2016 general elections will be conducted peacefully, but says the armed forces will apply the appropriate method should the polls get chaotic. Now, Brazilian contractors working on the Circle interchange here in Accra have denied claims that the flyover is sinking and poses a risk to users. It follows a circulation on social media of various photos of the pillars supporting the structure, which the publications suggest are being propped up. Though engineers in charge of the project concede the structure is sited in a flood-prone area, they say the nature of the soil there has already been taken into consideration in the design and that there's no cause for alarm. Also, one of the stories we have been looking at, 25 pedestrians on the average get knocked down on Ghana's roads every week. That's according to the National Road Safety Commission. To significantly reduce the number, the Commission, in collaboration with the Police Motor Traffic and Transport Departments, is embarking on a 3-day pedestrian safety education, road safety education initiative in the Central and Western regions. Still to come in the bulletin, work at the recently revamped Ayesu Start factory in the Central region is ground to a halt as the Electricity Company of Ghana has added the facility to its list of victims in the ongoing mass disconnection exercise to retrieve outstanding bills. Let's now get back to the Alisa Hotel, where the flag bearer of the Convention People's Party, Ivor Kobna Green Street, is taking questions. Right, so that was the flag bearer of the Convention People's Party, Ivor Kobna Green Street, and he has been articulating his vision and his plans should he be elected president of Ghana come November 7th. Moving on to other stories, the minority in Parliament appears to have the upper hand in the Electoral Commission's quest to amend relevant portions of the 1992 Constitution to enable a hold the general elections in November. Deputy Attorney General Dr. Dominic Ayene Tuesday laid the instrument in Parliament, paving the way for the amendment process to start.
In conformity with Article 291 of the Constitution, the Speaker, Edward Doe Ajahu, referred the request to the Council of States, and they are expected to advise the House within 30 days. The memorandum accompanying the instrument says the decision to amend the Constitution forms part of a recommendation by a committee set up by the Electoral Commission to advise on electoral reforms. In justifying the decision, it said holding the election in November will allow for smooth transition after the election. Making the case for the holding of the election on the first Monday of November of every election year, the instrument says it will address religious concerns of electorates and improve voter turnouts. The Speaker of Parliament is hopeful the document will be given the needed attention.
Upon the first reading of the bill, the Speaker is required to refer the bill to the Council of State for consideration and advice to this House. And the Council of State shall render advice on the bill within 30 days after receiving it. And I believe that is where we are now. And therefore, at this stage, I refer the bill having been presented for the first time. Honorable members, so when we receive, we'll proceed further when we receive the advice from the Council of State.
Member of Parliament for Sekondi, Papa Wusu Ankuma warns members of Parliament served with copies of documents justifying the amendments to enable them make informed choices.
This being so important, that's why I'm making that inquiry. When members will have their copies of the bill. Sometimes bills come and it takes some time before members get copies. That's why I'm making that inquiry.
The passage of the bill rests on approval of 2/3 of the 274 members of Parliament. The majority NDC does not have the required number and will therefore count on the support of the minority before the amendments can be approved. Vice Chairman of the Legal and Constitutional Committee of Parliament, Jelo tells parliamentary correspondent Elton John Bobe they will lobby their colleagues to back it.
It's already, I'm getting a sense, even from members as I speak to them, that some people have started questioning whether the first Monday of November is that. Why not a Saturday? Why not a Friday? Why? All those things I'm sure will play out. So it will be
a discussion at your committee.
Well, at the committee and of course plenary. People may want to find out what went into that. So basically, those are the things that may change. I don't see it changing in any way.
Obviously, it's not going to be a walk on the park. It will require the contribution of others to make it.
Of course, I've said that binding. Even the voting alone, that requires 2/3. It's enough for us to know that this must be done by consensus or through consensus, and that is what we will be aiming at. You know, since this morning after laying, I've sampled a few views, and I think that most members are adding about the November date.
And so I'm hopeful that, we'll pass it by consensus.
The Twitter's majority demands that you get some numbers from the minority side. Are they on board?
Definitely. That's what I'm saying. That I've spoken to some of my brothers in the minority, and they think that it's useful for all parties.
We'll stay in Parliament, where the Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament is questioning what it describes as a haste by government to replace the biometric passport with a chip-embedded one. The Foreign Affairs Minister Hannah Tete announced the initiative recently. Joy News is learning companies with minimum requirements have until Thursday to submit bids for the project. Member of the committee, Patrick Yabuama, tells Joy News the country is not ready for the chip-embedded passport.
My view was that it totally shut down the door on local companies to even participate in printing, because how many local companies do have $100 million? Secondly, is the government saying that they are not comfortable with the biometric passport being used at the moment? Is it an ICAO requirement that we change immediately from the biometric passport to the chip passport? Now, to even acquire a biometric passport is a problem in this country. The ministry is moving at such a speed that one will want to ask why that nerve-breaking speed, because it's not a requirement that, or it's not time-bound for us to quickly move from the biometric to the chip passport. So what I'm asking you is to do further checks, find out whether the ministry has properly briefed Ghanaians or the public on steps being taken to change from the biometric to the chip passport, because it has serious national security consequences, economic consequences, social. People would have to move far and near to have this change in passport. And it has cost, because to get a chip passport, you spend not less than $50.
Watching Joy News Prime, and we'll have more stories coming for you after this break. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to Joy News Prime, and we're moving on to electricity now. And a number of key institutions have had the electricity supply disconnected since Monday in what is believed to be a mass disconnection exercise to get defaulting institutional customers to settle their bills. It comes after a warning issued by ECG staff. They say are part of actions to protest the privatization of the company, and that company is very soon going to be giving out, or has been giving out on a concession basis to another agency or another company to manage. Now, joining us on the phone line is the Deputy General Secretary of the Public Utilities Workers Union, Michael Nyantechi. But before we get to that, the ECG staff initially issued, or originally issued, a statement, which statement stated that they were going to start the mass disconnection exercise from Monday, and so they went ahead. The first to be affected, one of the first institutions to be affected, was the Cape Coast Stadium, where they said was owing hundreds of thousands of Ghana cedis. Now, Mr. Michael Nyantechi is on the phone line, and he's going to be talking us through it. Good evening to you, Mr. Nyantechi.
Good evening.
Hello, Mr. Nyantechi.
Hello.
All right, so now, I would want you to first of all confirm for us that this statement about the mass disconnection exercise that you issued is indeed coming from the ECG.
Yeah, yes, it was a decision that was taken at the meeting of the divisional executive of the ECG, both junior and senior staff.
All right, so this is a decision taken by staff of ECG, and you're talking about the unions. So this is not coming from management, is it?
No. It wasn't a management-led activity.
How is it possible that staff of a company decide to embark on an exercise like this without the blessing of the management?
Well, this is not the first time that identifiable groups in ECG have been carrying out this kind of exercise. It's something that is done once in a while. And normally, before we embark on any such exercise, we write to notify management of the intention of workers to do this special revenue mobilization exercise. So it's not something that is done completely on the blind side of management, because it's an integral part of the company's operation. So we give it that a special focus where we bring staff from other areas to come and team up with those who are doing this as their core or normal business. So it's something that is done once in a while.
All right, now let me get this clear. The statement that you issued earlier, you're stating that for the security, you're going to for the military, you're going to disconnect only their residents, bungalows. Police, you're going to disconnect their residents, bungalows, and offices, except where they have any serious communication installations. This applies to the fire service and immigration. You talked about health. You said disconnect only the administration block and residences, bungalows. Education, in relation to schools and colleges, you have to disconnect only the administration block and residence and bungalows. But we're told in the central region, you disconnected the Cape Coast Polytechnic. Cape Coast Polytechnic.
Well, I don't know whether it's the whole Polytechnic that was disconnected or a section of the Polytechnic that was affected.
All right, so it turns out that they were writing exams, and apparently they were unable to do that, or it was disrupted, and they had to bring in generators.
Because the focus, as you read, we were looking at areas that we know will not be very critical or sensitive to the core business of the particular establishment. Especially, we look at the critical areas where it could affect life and things like that. So, ordinarily, classrooms and residences would not be considered as these critical areas. And that's why this exercise, if you recall, we gave our press statement and indicated that we were going to carry it out on the 20th. But we felt that at least we needed to give the public some little notice, because our press statement gave about 2 weeks information, and then we even saw extended to about a week more. So we believe that institutions that knew that they were owing, just always they get their bills. And where there are no any issues around any bills or debts are not any arguments, those are the areas that we go. And then where they are not ready to pay, because there are institutions you go where the people are ready to pay, they pay something, and then no disconnection goes on. And I think a clear example happens with Koforidua Polytechnic. When they went there, they paid part of the amount owing, and it was not disconnected.
Right, Mr. Nyantechi, there's this statement that's coming from the Ministry of Power, and the statement seeks to or comments the. Let me just read the statement to you. The Ministry of Power wishes to commend efforts currently being made by the Electricity Company of Ghana to collect outstanding bills owed it by various categories of customers, complemented by the Revenue Task Force. We have also noted the ongoing disconnection exercise being carried out by ECG to retrieve outstanding bills owed by customers. Whilst we commend ECG in that regard, we wish to bring to your attention government's decision to temporarily exclude certain critical categories of customers from prepayment metering and the mass disconnection exercise. These include critical installations in the health, security, and educational institutions. The Ministry of Finance would continue to take steps to address the settlement of payment of arrears of such categories of institutions. Now, the institutions that have been mentioned here in this statement from the Ministry of Power, which is signed by the Deputy Minister, indicates that you're not supposed to go near educational institutions and the security installations that you have highlighted and listed that you're going to disconnect. What do you make of this statement from the Ministry of Power?
Yeah, well, I think this statement is basically restating government gives this directive. But unfortunately, this arrangement to pay whatever power consumed by these institutions that are being so-called exempted is not put in place, and the debts continue piling up. ECG doesn't generate the power; it buys from some square and services. So you are expected to pay for what you have bought and also get the revenue from what you are selling to run the operations of the company. And all over the years, the issue of non-collection or inability to collect bills have been used as an excuse or whatever to continuously lambast the ECG. So in one breath, you are tagging the company for being inefficient, for not collecting its bills. In another breath, the company tries to take steps to do that, and then you are now raising some letters or some policy documents stopping it. So it's a little confusing to everyone. We believe that the government means to ensure that these institutions continue to function without any interruption, and knowing that they are using power, which power somebody has to pay for, government should make it as part of the policy that once we are asking the utility not to disconnect or to fix prepaid meters, then there should be an arrangement for the institutions, the power they consume, to be paid and paid promptly. Because as these monies are retained over the years, it puts pressure on the company to also go into borrowing, suppliers' credit, even affecting efforts being made to improve on performance. And the same policymakers will turn around and use this as a basis to even lambast the company, and even now as one of the key justifications of packaging the company for concession. So you cannot give a policy directive and at the same time create obstacles on the path of the company doing its work. We need to build state institutions and institutions to function. If we know that the institution is providing some social service for which it has to be looked at as a social intervention, then we need to discuss and agree on the modalities for financing those social interventions. But if you are expecting the company to run on an economic basis and you are measuring it with economic spectacle, then you cannot deny it in one way from collecting the revenue from people who have consumed the power.
Mr. Nyantechi, so regardless of all that you've said, the Ministry of Power and the Deputy Minister government is saying that you're supposed to exclude certain critical categories of customers. And these include the educational institutions and some other places. Would you comply with this latest directive?
Well, fortunately, tomorrow we have a meeting with the management to discuss these issues. We believe that, yes, we are workers of the company. We are not the owners of the company. The owner can make policy decisions and directives. But if we have a mandate to also carry out, then we need to agree where we draw the line.
Does it mean, Mr. Nyantechi, does it mean that you're going to put it on hold because of this meeting you're having tomorrow?
There may be a temporary hold tomorrow, and after the meeting, then we will look at the way forward. But we believe that we cannot continue this way that we have been doing. There's not a new directive. This directive has been given more than 3 years. Government is not making good its promises to pay. And this is continuously affecting the company. And as it affects the company, it affects the workers also. And this is also being used as one of the justifications to show the inefficiency of the company and for which reason it must be given out some concessions. It is confusing. You can't keep your feet and have.
Right. Mr. Nyantechi, there's also the Ayensu starch factory, which we're told that has been shut down. Electricity supply has been disconnected to it. would you restore power to them and some of the other?
I'm not sure whether Ayensu Starch Factory is an MDE or is part of the companies that you mentioned as the critical areas. So if it's a business enterprise, a business entity, they should be able to cover their costs.
How about Cape Coast Polytechnic?
Cape Coast Polytechnic. And you see, sometimes we need to be very sincere with ourselves as a country. Look, these tertiary institutions, they run a lot of courses that they can afford or they have the resources to pay for the power they are using.
Mr. Nyantechi, would you restore their power, at least in the meantime?
No, that one will follow from whatever decisions we agree at the meeting tomorrow.
All right.
We are yet to go to the meeting, so I can't give any such express answer as to a yes or no.
All right. Thank you very much. Michael Nyantechi is the Deputy General Secretary of the Public Utility Workers Union. In other news, the Students' Representative Council of the University of Ghana says it will not succumb to any policy decision that will be detrimental to students of the university. The student union leaders say they will not support any decision to make students bear the cost of the utility tariffs. Joy News' Maxwell Agbada was at the press conference and has filed this report.
The press conference, which was organized by the University of Ghana Student Representative Council, had student leaders from various tertiary institutions present to show solidarity. The SRC president of the University of Ghana, Isina Mafisia,
and the University of Ghana management asking that students are waived from the proposed charges. We call on all parents, civil society organizations, student unions, and the general public to stand by the students of the University of Ghana SRC to vehemently avert these unwarranted charges on students. We further call on all students of the University of Ghana to remain calm, as the SRC will not succumb to any policy decision to the detriment of students' welfare.
President of the National Union of Ghana Students, Parkwisi, doing an exclusive interview, hinted the student union would use all means available to protest the imposition of the utility bills.
But the point I want to get something clear is government imposing utility bills on us. If government is imposing utility bills on us, that is not going to be accepted by the students of Ghana. Then maybe the government want to push us and want to test our patience, or the government want to push us to take serious actions against them. That is in your word. Serious actions could be any kind of serious action that is within the confinement of the rules and regulations of our country. If need be that we hit the street, fine. If need be that we take legal actions and take the government or any stakeholder that is trying to force something on us, we will take it up, because this is something we all agreed upon. You don't go to the negotiation table, agree on something, then one party decides to do otherwise. That is not going to happen in our
UN Special Advisor to the Secretary General, Professor Jeffrey Sachs, has charged the Electoral Commission to ensure that stakeholders in the upcoming elections have trust in the electoral roll before the country goes to the polls. Professor Jeffrey Sachs, who is also the director of the Earth Institute at Columbia University, said peaceful election is crucial if Ghana is to keep current investors in the country and also attract new businesses. He made these observations at the public lecture on sustainable development and economic growth in Africa here in Accra.
Ghana's Electoral Commission and the electoral roll have become dominant topics for discussion in the past few months. Pressure groups like the Let My Vote Count Alliance hit the streets of some regional capitals to demand the Commission compiles a new register for the 2016 polls. On June 23 this year, in the Abu Ramadan versus Electoral Commission of Ghana, the Supreme Court ordered the Electoral Commission to submit in writing the full list of persons who registered with the NHIS cards. The Electoral Commission was swift to issue a statement indicating its willingness to comply with the Supreme Court's ruling. The back and forth, according to analysts, has heightened the political tensions in the country in the full glare of the international community. Speaking at the public lecture in Accra, UN Special Advisor to the UN Secretary General, Professor Jeffrey Sachs, said, peaceful election is crucial if Ghana is to keep current investors in the country and also attract new businesses. He believes the key to peaceful elections is to satisfy all parties.
You've got a critical election coming up, also with the difficulties of the names on the electoral rolls. It's vital that there be trust in the country by the time the election takes place. This is really important because without it, not only nothing works, but also I can tell you economics doesn't work either, because you won't get the investment and the development that's needed.
Meanwhile, Professor Jeffrey Sachs has described as unwise the lack of willingness on the part of government to invest in technology in the various tertiary institutions. The director of the Earth Institute at Columbia University also cautioned Ghana not to shun their responsibility of finding the suitable technology needed to fix the numerous challenges that currently confront the country.
Investing in technology, in knowledge, in new science. And I think Ghana has to do more of that. I asked the Vice Chancellor, how much is the government investing in research and development at the university? I think he said 0. Whatever it was a low number that he said, but it sure sounded like 0. That's not good. It's not wise for any country to say, well, we'll leave the technology to somebody else. They're not going to give it to you for free. And they're not going to give you what you need, by the way, because nobody else can figure out the technologies that are appropriate for Ghana's needs but Ghana. That's not to say that technology from abroad isn't useful. Of course it is. Every country needs to be open to the technologies, but none of them can work without being adapted to the ecosystems, the context, the geography, the local needs, the cultural needs, the demographic patterns of your country. So I believe government-university partnerships are key to develop the new technologies, and business-university partnerships are key to develop the new technologies. Businesses everywhere, by the way, invest in universities. I like that because I work at a university. So they say we need skilled workers, we need new technology. So they help to fund departments, or even senior executives from companies come to be professors because they have invaluable experience in managing businesses or in managing those technologies.
Government advisor to the President, Daniel Batidam, says the fight against corruption should not be limited to the presidency alone, but should include institutions across both the private and public sector. He has meanwhile downplayed the need for a substantive head of the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, which is set to investigate the President's acceptance of a Ford vehicle as a gift from a Burkinabe contractor.
The presidency is currently embroiled in a scandal involving the delivery of a Ford Expedition gift valued at $100,000 from Jibril Kanazoy. The maiden edition of the National Anti-Corruption Forum is Mr. Batidam's first public appearance since the remarks he made on the Joy News documentary reacting to a hypothetical scenario.
Sometimes gifts come from the supply side of corruption, that is the private sector, contractors and people who want to influence decisions in their favor. It goes without saying that you cannot take gifts from sources that have the potential of influencing your decision making. It's just not it's not acceptable, and I think a responsible leader, minister, senior public servant, would not need to be advised on that.
Mr. Batidam also stated that there is little need for the appointment of a substantive head of the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, despite it being 8 months since the previous commissioner, Loretta Lamte, was dismissed.
If you take the case of Shraj in particular, I keep on saying that whilst the over 1 year that the substantive head was being investigated, the institution continued running. So it is important to
to have a sense of what institution building is about. If we build our institutions, if we build strong institutions, the head might just not be necessarily the solution.
However, Dr. Frank Odro and several other leading members from civil society organizations disagree with this assertion.
I see no reason why almost 2 years down the line, STRAJ, for instance, which is the implementation agency of NACA, still doesn't have a substantive head for STRAJ. I mean, if we are serious and we want to make that institution resource both financially and human resource, then we need to be committed in terms of empowering the commission to be able to do that. If there is no substantive leadership, I'm not saying that my colleagues Charles and others are not working, but leadership matters. Why are we not appointing leadership for STRAJ?
Dr. Odro noted that the large amount of power vested in the presidency could also potentially create the atmosphere for corrupt practices.
We cannot take away the power of the president to appoint many of the functionaries. But what we need to do is to ensure that we limit that power of the president to appoint almost everybody, but also make it more inclusive and more participatory in terms of the other agents and other organs of the state, especially involving Parliament, and in that case, not just simple majority, but a 2/3 majority of Parliament. This will force bipartisan approach. This will bring consensus building, and we can get the best out of that, and that's the essence of democracy.
The National Anti-Corruption Forum is organized by the Ghana Integrity Initiative with support from the NIDA.
We're taking another break. We'll be back in a bit.